AEW Dynamite Results January 19, 2022. The show opens up with Jim Ross saying his "It's Wednesday night" catchphrase. The camera pans the crowd briefly and then we hear the familiar sounds of Jon Moxley's theme song. Jon Moxley's return kicks off this week's show. The former AEW World Champion makes his way to the ring to the familiar Jon Moxley, intro by the Dapper Yapper Justin Roberts. Eddie Kingston makes his way out behind Mox as the fans soak in the return of the purveyor of violence as Wild Thing plays over the house speakers. Mox begins by yelling at a catcaller in the crowd by saying "FCK off" and then telling security to get that piece of SHT out of here. He then begins by talking about landing on an airplane in a city that he doesn't even know and waking up from a dream. He continues telling the story, getting emotional as he talks about how no one goes through life unscathed. He says he's got scars all over his body, but those are important, the ones that are come from inside. You can't see them, but those are the ones you should be proud of. The fans give him an applause break. As he continues, he says everyone shouldn't be ashamed of those scars, they should bear it all and let the world know, this is me. He then says he's sure there are plenty of people who write him off and doubt him. He says if you want to doubt him, he'll tell you the same thing he told the demon in his dream: you can take all that SHT and shove it up your ass. He says he doesn't run from these demons, he just beats the SHT out of them. He thanks everyone who has believed in him and then says to get ready for a ride in 2022 because he's gonna grab the world of wrestling by the balls and take whatever he wants. He says now more than ever he is truly free. The crowd wildly cheers again and breaks out into a chant of his name. He says he's thirsty and all he drinks is blood. He says he's more dangerous now than he was before. He drops the mic and walks off through the crowd to Wild Thing the same way he entered. MJF with a message to CM Punk, Wardlow and Shawn Spears. We return from the commercial break after our opener, and we shoot backstage to MJF, with Wardlow standing behind him. He goes on to be critical of CM Punk getting a tainted victory by grabbing Wardlow's tights and rolling him up last week instead of taking the loss on the chin like a man. He says a more seasoned veteran would have kicked out and then says he's actually wanting to apologize to Wardlow. He says he lost his cool on him last week and that is not okay. He tells Wardlow that one thing he can't allow, however, is for him to put his hands on him. He tells him a financial punishment and then vows that Shawn Spears will get the job done against Punk tonight. He wishes Wardlow a happy birthday and says he's better than you, and you know it. Adam Cole and Britt Baker vs Orange Cassidy and Kris Statlander. We return inside the arena to Adam Cole's theme song. He and Britt Baker make their way down to the ring for their advertised mixed tag team match. The two settle in the ring and their music fades down after the crowd does the boom. Adam Cole, baby, routine with him. From there, Orange Cassidy's theme hits and out he comes accompanied by his tag team partner for tonight, Kris Statlander. The duo make their way down to the ring and when their music cuts off, we get this one going. The bell sounds to make it official and immediately we see Cole tag in Baker. Baker gets up in Cassidy's face and makes him tag, but he decides against it. He does his wimpy soft sweet chin music kicks and Baker looks at him like he's a moron before stomping on his foot. Finally Statlander comes in and she drops Baker and does a John Cena like "you can't see me" gesture to her while standing over her. She then gets to work for real and the babyface duo starts to take over. We see a cool double team spot where Statlander and Cassidy are on the ring apron and they hit double splashes onto Baker and Cole. Immediately afterwards, however, Cole and Baker hit a pair of super kicks after Cassidy and Statlander give the people what they want, a best friends hug. The happy couple gives each other a smooch and then continues to go to work on Cassidy and Statlander as we head into a mid-match commercial break. As we settle back in from the commercials, we see things pick up. After Baker and Cole try and finish the babyface team off a few times with no success, we see things go off the deep end when Cole blocks Baker from being finished off by Statlander. Moments later we see Baker put through a table on the floor, one that she and Cole set up themselves. This enrages Cole, who ends up taking out Cassidy for a pinfall victory in the ring before quickly heading back out to the floor to check on Baker, who is being viewed by ringside doctors and other AEW officials. Winners: Adam Cole and Britt. Baker, Santana and Ortiz stand up for Eddie Kingston. Chris Jericho doesn't feel them. We shoot backstage to Alex Marvey, who is standing by with Chris Jericho, as well as other Inner Circle members Santana and Ortiz. LE Champion talks about how he doesn't care about Eddie Kingston, and as he continues to dig at him, telling him to GFY, he is interrupted by Santana and Ortiz. The two tell him to tread lightly when talking about the Mad King because they do care about him. They say he had a good point, too, when he mentioned how Jericho might be the reason why they have never held tag team gold. They walk off after saying, "Feel me," to which Jericho replies, "No, no, I don't feel you." We then head to another commercial break. Adam Cole reveals lights out match for AEW Beach Break. We return from the break to a very agitated Adam Cole standing by for an interview with Alex Marvey. He takes the mic from Marvey and tells him to get out. He talks about how he already had issues with Orange Cassidy, but now after he put his hands on his girlfriend Britt Baker, it's a whole different situation. He vows to end his pathetic career in a lights-out match that he informs us has been scheduled for next week's AEW Beach Break special. Shawn Spears vs CM Punk. Following an elaborate video package to set the stage for our next match of the evening, we head back inside the arena where Shawn Spears gets a big-time ring entrance for his advertised featured bout against the best in the world. From there, Spears settles in the ring and awaits his music to cut off. When it does, the theme for CM Punk plays and out he comes. He combs the ground in front of him and then informs everyone in shouting distance that it is, in fact, clobbering time. He makes his way down to the ring as the fans already break into a loud "CM Punk! CM Punk!" chant. Once he enters the ring, his music cuts off and the theme for MJF begins playing. Spears is seen in the background applauding this as MJF emerges at the top of the entrance ramp. MJF makes his way over to join Jim Ross, Excalibur, and Tony Schiavone on guest commentary for this featured contest. His music cuts off as he begins talking on commentary, and then the bell sounds to get this one off and running. Immediately Punk hoists Spears up and hits his GTS for the insanely fast pinfall victory. Winner: CM Punk. After the match, CM Punk almost gets his hands on MJF. Once the match ends, Punk turns and points to MJF at the commentary section and does the GTS gesture. MJF acts like he's not going to do anything, and as Punk turns to climb the ropes to celebrate his victory, MJF hits the ring, sliding in behind Punk. Punk drops down to the mat again and then grabs MJF's scarf. MJF lets the scarf slide around his neck as he backs off and slides under the ropes to head to the back. The Gun Club make a statement at Christian Cage's expense. We shoot backstage after we are told Billy Gunn has taken over a cameraman and forced him to follow him out to the parking lot. We see Christian Cage making his entrance to the arena and Billy Gunn approaches him. Gunn insults Christian and eventually we see Christian tell Gunn that he never had that statement victory in his career, just like his sons. Gunn stops him from walking away after Colton and Austin Gunn hit the scene and the three beat him down and leave him laying. They ask, "How's that for a statement?" to end the segment. Cody Rhodes promo on CM Punk's pipe bomb, Forbidden Door and Beach Break. The American Nightmare makes his way down to the ring to the usual mixed bag crowd reaction from the fans in Washington, D.C. As he nears the ring, the commentators talk us into a pre-segment commercial break. Cody Rhodes' return from COVID-19 hiatus is up next. When we return from the break, Cody is shown standing in the ring with his TNT Championship in his hands and a ladder set up behind him. He asks the booing fans behind him, "What do you want to talk about?" He goes on to talk about being reminded of a man who gave one of the most important addresses of our sport. He says it was the first hint of a revolution. He says he's talking about CM Punk and his classic pipe bomb. He mentions that someone told him to save this promo, but because he doesn't know if he'll get the chance, he's gonna do it now. Cody mentions things that Punk brought up in the pipe bomb and then says he never got to do many of them, such as going to Raw, teaming with the Young Bucks and others. He points out that he did those things. He gets angry in doing so and acts heelish as he emotionally explains why he won't turn heel. He says it's because the fans cheered him when he needed them most. Now he brings up the Forbidden Door. He says it's a proper noun. It's vernacular. He says if you're an industry journalist and you disagree with anything he says, you're not a real journalist. He says he's the one who actually built the Forbidden Door. The fans try and break out into a Cody chant. It spreads pretty big throughout the arena, but many fans are still booing as well. He talks about the Redragon and Young Bucks nearly starting a second Wednesday Night Wars last week. He talks about his real-life friend Ricky Starks getting into a feud with Jay Lethal. He tells him to avoid the lethal kick finisher from him. He then brings up Malakai Black. He says he's a guy who hung 2 losses on his name and as he points out he hates to lose. From there, he mentions that they don't change names in AEW and mocks WWE renaming Walter to Gut or something. He goes on to mention it's ballsy to call yourself Brody in a place like AEW before finally getting to the point of his promo, which is to challenge Sammy Guevara to a ladder match to unify the world and interim TNT titles at AEW Beach Break. Jade Cargill has some big news. We shoot backstage to Jade Cargill, who is with Tony Schiavone. Also in the picture is John Silver and Anna Jay from the Dark Order. Cargill's manager speaks up on her behalf. Anna wants a title shot and she is apparently the one who will be accepting an open challenge from Jade. Malakai Black and Brody King vs. The Varsity Blondes now back inside the arena, the them for Malakai Black hits and out he comes along with Brody King. The duo settle inside the ring as their music cuts off. From there, the entrance of the Varsity Blondes takes place. Brian Pillman Jr. and Griff Garrison make their way down to the ring for this advertised tag bout. The bell sounds and we are now off and running with this one. Early on we see Garrison go right after the opposition, but it isn't long before Malakai turns the tables with the help of Brody. Brody tags in and takes over, dominating Garrison and then daring Pillman Jr. to springboard into the ring from the top rope like he normally does after Garrison tags him in. Pillman Jr. and Garrison talk on the floor while Brody watches. Brody exits the ring and comes up behind them. Garrison runs into the ring and blasts Black and tries to drop kick Brody on the floor through the ropes, however it backfires. We see Pillman Jr. try and pick up things from there, but instead Malakai and Brody double team him and eventually finish him off to pick up their first victory via pinfall. Winners, Malakai Black and Brody King. After the match, Pac addresses Malakai Black and Brody King. Once the match wraps up, we see Pac appear on the big screen in a room with red lights and a blindfold on. He talks about the House of Black and how the bastard is beyond even Malakai Black's reach. He shows a Justice 11 card and says he supposes this is the moment he expected him to bow down and call him master. He tells Malakai that he's going to make a martyr out of him. Lance Archer is next for Hangman Page. A vignette airs now showing the return of the Murder Hawk monster Lance Archer on last week's show. He is shown talking, as is Jake the Snake Roberts and Dan Lambert. They make it clear they have their sights set on AEW World Champion Hangman Page. After this, we head to a commercial break. The best friends hijack Cutler Cam to issue a challenge. We return and the commentators send us to a Cutler Cam segment. We're expecting the Young Bucks, but instead, up comes another duo. The best friends appear and challenge the Bucks, claiming they are the team to beat them even though they haven't won much as of late. Frankie Kazarian vs Lance Archer. Now we're back inside the arena where Frankie Kazarian comes to the ring, introduced by Justin Roberts as Frankie Kazarian. He settles in the ring and his music dies down. The theme for Lance Archer plays and out comes the Murder Hawk monster accompanied by Jake Roberts and Dan Lambert. His music dies down and it's time to get this one underway. We hear the bell to get this one started and immediately Archer charges across the ring and nearly takes Kazarian's head off. He follows that up by gloating to the crowd before getting back to work on him some more. As the one-sided domination continues, we head to a mid-match commercial break. When we return from the break, Archer is still in control of the action. After a few minutes of the beatdown continuing, Kazarian gets in a little bit of offense of his own. This doesn't last long, however, as Archer catches him with a choke slam to shift the momentum back in his favor. He hits the ripcord into the Hell Coaster. Now he hoists Kazarian up to the top and brings him off the top with his blackout finisher for the pinfall victory. Winner, Lance Archer. After the match, Hangman Page defends Cowboy sh*T. Once the match wraps up, we hear Dan Lambert on the mic ranting and raving about Hangman Page being the AEW World Champion. Eventually Archer takes the mic and says he's sick of hearing about all of this Cowboy sh*T. He then says he's going to show us some real Cowboy sh*T. On that note, Archer grabs Kazarian and takes him up the ramp with evil intentions. Before he can do what he had planned, Hangman Page makes his way out and gets right in Archer's face. He B*TCH slaps him right across the mouth and the fight is on. The champ and Archer duke it out. When in the ring, Archer looks to hit his blackout finisher on the champ. Instead, Hangman escapes and looks for his buckshot lariat. He doesn't get it, but he does get the better of Archer, as he remains in the ring standing tall while Archer doesn't. Dante Martin and Team Taz rivalry continues. We shoot backstage to Alex Marvey, who is with Dante Martin, Lee Moriarty, and Matt Sydal. He talks to Martin about saving Sydal and Moriarty from an attack from Team Taz. He says they are like his brothers. They claim to have his back, too. From there, we shoot to the FTW champion Ricky Starks and fellow Team Taz member Powerhouse Hobbs. Starks points out Martin's potential brother complex. He and Hobbs vow to be a thorn in their side. We head to a commercial break after this. Legit Layla Hirsch attacks Red Velvet and Kris Statlander. As we settle back in from the break, Tony Schiavone is backstage with Kris Statlander, who has Red Velvet by her side. He asks Statlander about her hard-hitting match earlier tonight and how she appears banged up still. Before she can say much of anything, up walks Legit Layla Hirsch, who has a lot to say to Kris, prompting Red Velvet to come to her defense. This only angers Hirsch more, who complains about Red always having Kris back. As Red turns to say something to Kris, she is attacked from behind by Hirsch. Kris kneels down to check on Red, and Hirsch attacks her from behind as well, slapping an armbar on her and having to be separated by officials backstage. Skye Blue vs Serena Deeb. Now we head back inside the arena where Skye Blue's theme hits and she makes her way down to the ring. Once the AEW Women's Division competitor settles in the ring, her music dies down. From there, Serena Deeb's entrance music hits and out she comes for our next one-on-one match here on this week's edition of AEW Dynamite on TBS. Early on we see Blue trying to hold her own with the more experienced Deeb, however it is a one-sided affair from Jump Street. She beats Blue down with ease and then hits a swinging neck breaker. After hitting the move, it elicits a loud Deeb, Deeb, Deeb chant from the fans in Washington, D.C., which Schiavone explains is very close to her hometown. From there, she hits her semi-finisher and then applies the Serenity Lock for the submission victory. Winner, Serena Deeb. Ethan Page wants a piece of Jon Moxley. We shoot backstage to the Men of the Year, with Dan Lambert standing by their side. All ego Ethan Page does the talking. He points out no one seemed interested in facing off with Jon Moxley after his return tonight. He tells Tony Khan to look no further, and offers himself up for the spot. He wraps the segment up and the commentators run down the Rampage lineup for Friday, where they confirm the Moxley vs Page match. Sammy Guevara flips through the cards from the beach after running down the rest of the Rampage lineup, as well as confirming some matches for the AEW Dynamite Beach Break special. We shoot to a commercial break. During the break, Sammy Guevara flips through his cue cards with messages written on them from a balcony near a beach as ads air with the audio playing on the other half of the screen. The Hardy family office gets modified name, New majority owner. We return from the break to another AEW Beach Break match announcement, as Layla Hirsch will go one-on-one against Red Velvet. Now we shoot to the backstage area where Tony Schiavone is standing by with Matt Hardy, Andrade El Idolo and members of the Hardy family office. Hardy goes on to make some announcements. He and Andrade reveal that they have come to a business arrangement. They then list some of the details, which includes 51% of the HFO ownership going to Andrade, while Hardy retains 49% and 3 seats on the board of directors. The other 2 belong to Andrade and Jose. He also names Andrade the president of the renamed AHFO. After this, we head back to the commentary team, who gets us ready for our main event. The Acclaimed vs Darby Allin and Sting. A normally Darby Allin style intro video airs in black and white, but ends up being the Acclaimed in a pre-shot parody. Then the duo emerges in the arena rapping their way to the ring, boasting how they are black and white without face paint, unlike their opponents tonight. From there, they settle into the ring and we watch as Max Caster and Anthony Bowens await the entrance of their opponents for tonight's headline bout of the show here on Dynamite on TBS. On that note, the theme for Darby Allin plays and he wastes no time coming out. He stops and waits and then the theme for Sting plays as snow falls from the rafters and the lights turn blue. The two make their way down to the ring and as soon as they enter the ring, they are brutalized by Caster and Bowens with steel chairs before the bell even rings. They take Sting out with one momentarily and then focus on Darby. They put Darby's head through a chair and then run him along the ring apron into the steel ring post, where the chair on his head smashes into the post and Allin crashes and burns on the floor below at ringside. The doctors immediately flock to the scene to check on Allin. Sting stumbles into the ring and then heads over to check on Allin. The commentators get us ready for the reality of Sting in a handicap match against the Acclaimed instead of the originally advertised tag team main event. The ringside doctor and other AEW officials help Allin to the back while Sting fires up and begins beating down both members of the Acclaimed by himself. He knocks them out of the ring and follows them out to continue his beatdown on the heel duo. Back in the ring, Sting is still in control. He hits a stinger splash on Caster and looks to do the same to Bowens, but it doesn't work out as he had planned. Instead, the duo hits some double team action on him and then we head to a mid-match commercial break as they shift the momentum in their favor as the match continues. When we return from the break, we see the Acclaimed still in control of the action. They are working over the Icon and then they set him up across the steel barricade at ringside, with intentions of finishing him off. Instead, Darby Allin makes it to the scene just in time to take them out and save his buddy. The commentators put over the toughness of Allin as he returns following the pre-match chair attack to his neck. He fires up and hits a coffin drop on Bowens on the floor. In the ring, he hits a code red on Caster and nearly finishes him off with a choke. Bowens ends up tagging in however, and blasting Darby with a super kick. This sets up the mic drop from Caster but Sting hits the ring to break up the pin attempt. He clotheslines Caster out of the ring and then back body drops Bowens out of the ring as well. Sting heads up to the entrance and then he gives himself some room to run and when he does, he runs off the ramp and puts Caster through a table. We see Bowens back in the ring running into an exposed turnbuckle that he took the padding off of earlier. Allin follows up with a big move and then heads to the top where he leaps off with his coffin drop finisher for the 1-2-3. The team of Sting and Darby Allin win this week's tag team main event, which was an excellent match. Once the match wraps up, we see Darby and Sting celebrating their victory by posing for the fans in Washington, D.C. The commentary team reminds us about the live edition of Rampage this Friday night on TNT before once again plugging next week's Beach Break edition of Dynamite on TBS. That's how this week's show goes off the air. Thanks for joining us. Winners, Darby Allin and Sting.